business, and so I think it will be interesting. Why France? Why this idea of Professor Falico? Why France? But France is a major partner of the Eurasian Economic Union, of the country of the Eurasian Economic Union, a major partner of Russia. We maybe focus on Russia. France is a political partner, as we are with the Russians at the Security Council. So we study all the problems of the world, from North Korea, Syria, and so on. I mean, everything. It's, of course, and we will, of course, speak about that, and an important economic partner, as France has quite the same market shares in Russia and Italy. Let's say quite the same. But we have also a cooperation in cultural cooperation with large exhibition, French in Moscow or in St. Petersburg, Russian exhibition in Paris, also in, now so this is science, so in spatial industry, in nuclear industry, and so on. So it's very large. So our president, Mr. Macron, was this year 3 times in Russia. I think it's the country he was the most often, except Brussels for the EU questions, but except for on the bilateral affairs, it is, of course, 2 times for football, with good results, as you know, everybody. 1 time in May at the St. Petersburg Forum, we saw the picture in the presentation. So what I would say, so to have a business-oriented, roundtable with a short, concise, intervention and speech of our, and after maybe some question, and always very practical, because what is right for France is right for Italians, is right for others, is right for everybody. So it means, maybe my first question will be for Verona Nikishina, that really thanks to be with us, so which is a minister, so we said also commissioner in EU jargon, in EU language. So Minister of Trade of the Eurasian Economic Union. So Veronica, very easy question is, how do you see the French company in the Union, So have you some advice for them to use better the opportunities offered by the Economic Union? And I would say that, Veronica, to that you have a joker. It means you are the person, I will deliver you some of my power, I will say, you have the possibility to make an intervention or to, after each of the other people, to give your advice or your mind how to do better. Thank you, Veronica.
Спасибо большое. Прежде всего я хочу поблагодарить и господина Фалика.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pégovier. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. For us, members of the UEA, and for the representatives of the various governments, it is very important indeed to establish a direct dialogue with the business world that represents not only our union but the main trading partners. And surely the French business is really a major partner for us. So I'm very pleased today to do my best to provide some suggestions. And I will be equally pleased to take into account your opinions to establish and preserve an effective dialogue among the Eurasian Commission. For us, the presence of Russia and the other countries of the Eurasian Economic Union as trading partners enables us to act effectively on a very wide market. I know that this is self-evident, but I think it's very important to understand that the brand of French companies many of which are very well known for the quality of what they do, for the long history on our markets and on third countries too, is an added value. The trust for these companies and for these for their own trading policies offers an important advantage vis-a-vis other companies that are less famous and less present in other countries. So it's important for you to understand that many of our country's governments are really going to welcome you and are ready and willing to establish the best possible conditions for you to work there. In the case of Russia, which I represent within the Eurasian Economic Commission, let's say that for governors and regions, investment by foreign companies is facilitated as much as possible, and that is surely one of our key objectives. So we have a kind of rating of regions where among the rating parameters there's also the comfort offered to foreign companies. So many regional administrations, as I said, are ready and willing to see you and discuss with you about all the advantages that they can offer to you as investors on their market in order to simplify your work as much as possible and make it as profitable as possible. Then, if you want to make or sell your products, we establish with you a number of preferential agreements. On this basis, as a resident in the Eurasian area, you can export to third countries, taking advantage of all our free trade agreements. If you only want to sell your products on the Eurasian Economic Union area, and you are a bit worried by custom tariffs, the products you sell may be produced outside, but through our partners, you can have our help to cut down these custom tariffs. We have a number of very clear and simplified procedures to follow that lead to less expensive situation through reduction of custom tariffs. If you are a bit worried by some technical rules that exist in our area, again, we are ready to establish a dialogue with you. We use these things not simply to protect our market, but rather to avoid the arrival of poor quality products. We use the standards of the World Trade Organization, and we accept their standards and also take part in the technical committee meetings of the World Trade Organization. Our idea is to have a partnership with business as such. We have an open dialogue with businessmen of any countries, whether they are resident in our region or not. So this is what our Eurasian Economic Commission is doing. We are very interested in the initiative that was mentioned in Brussels on the 19th of October during the summit called Asia, Europe, Eurasia. And the purpose is to establish an interconnection between Europe and Asia with not more than 50 countries participating. And the European Commission spoke in favor of a dialogue on all business-related issues. We are ready and willing to take part in this dialogue. And So if you ask for specific simplifications of technical rules and regulations for custom procedures and to reduce tariff barriers, we'll be very happy to take care of that. We have a close relationship with European business world, not so much with single companies, but with the business world as a whole, which is consolidated. Unfortunately, this is not equally the case with the French business, where we are in contact with specific companies. But French business world is not addressed as a whole, if you like. At least that's our perception. And that is something that must be corrected with an effort on both sides. So I just wish to repeat that we are open to any dialogue, because dialogue is a key prerequisite for the solution of all problems instead of building up new problems, which is what's happening in the world. We need to solve problems by cooperating with all institutions at national and regional level. Grazie. Adesso sentiremo Guy Sidos, questa azienda, la Vicat è ben nota in Asia e in molti altri.
Danone, of course, everybody, all the Russians, and even more than Russians, know Danone. In energy, Total, Engie, EDF. In technology, of course, Schneider Electric, Alstom, and so on. You, Vicat, is a producer of cement, and you are especially, so you have a footprint in Kazakhstan. So what is your footprint in Eurasia? Explain us. Why did you choose Kazakhstan to develop your business? What is your vision? Short and business, as you know.
Sure. At first, thank you for the organization of the Eurasian Economic Forum for inviting us. This is a great meeting, great folks, and great opportunity to grow business. Thank you for that. A few words about Vicat first. Vicat is a name of the inventor of artificial cement. And 200 years after and 7 generations after, the company is still in the founder's family. We manufacture cement, ready-mix and aggregates in 11 countries. Our sales are around $3 billion with 8,500 employees. 10 years ago, we built a greenfield cement plant. Greenfield means there was nothing. In Kazakhstan, close to Lake Balkhash, and we invested $300 million to build a 1 million ton plant. We are quite happy with that, because right now we are able to produce 1.6 million tons of cement per year. We produce in Kazakhstan, for Kazakhstan, with Kazakhstanese people. Why did we invest in Kazakhstan? And that's all about business climate. At first, we wanted to find growth in our business where growth is there. So we developed a lot the company in emerging countries. And business climate in the area is uneven depending on the country, and our criteria are the following. We invest in countries where the rule of law is totally respected. We invest where there are no restrictions on capital movements. We invest in countries where there is a healthy industrial policy which protects investments. And the cement plant is there for a long time. We are looking for 100 years of limestone reserves, and this is really a long-term investment. We do not invest in countries where we face competition with state-owned cement plant, because in this case, quite often, rules are totally distorted. And the key for us to invest is to feel that the same rules are applied to everybody. This done, we need large limestone reserves. As I said, it's 100 years of what you need to produce cement during this time, and also a potential growing market. And Kazakhstan has good perspectives, and that's the reason why we went there. About we had a talk yesterday about investment in France, and you told me, Candice, that it was complicated. I corrected you, telling it was different. Each country is different, and Kazakhstan offered us some kind of unique getaway, some kind of one-stop shop for investors that helped us a lot, and like that we didn't have to go through all the administrative difficulties you can meet when you invest in a country which is not your country. We are often asked about what advice we should give to investors who want to follow our tracks. I would say, at first, look around and listen to experiences. And this kind of event is wonderful for that, to feel the country, to go directly to the right organization, to avoid the wrong intermediate. That's the first thing. Second advice I will give is to send good people at regalian functions, not only a good tamada. We need to, what we send there, that's, we want a country head who knows the business, who knows how to interact with the corporate office. We send also a chief financial officer, and someone is a technician that will bring the expertise of Vika. It's important to find the right partner. In Kazakhstan, we partner with a Kazakh investor and with the World Bank through IFC, and the World Bank is still owning 10% of our capital. It's important to, I believe, to have this kind of help. Need to be able to adjust to the culture. When you work abroad, you need to change your software sometimes, because if you work in Astana like you work in Paris, you are dead. Another advice would be to try to avoid Forex, what I would call Forex trap. It means put more emphasis on equity than loans. For example, when we invested in Kazakhstan, we could not cover tenge versus our loans in US dollar. So it's a problem when you get tenge or rubles in payment, and you have to reimburse loans in US dollar, and you have no way to cover your investment and your loans, and you have no way to find decent rates on local loans. So more equity, the more equity you have, the better, and that's what we corrected after the initial investment.
Guy, I will ask you to conclude.
Yeah, so basically our story in Kazakhstan has been a success, and we are the best ambassador of Kazakhstan in France now. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Very interesting experience in this country. So I said before that the cooperation between France and Russia, in technology is huge. I so remind General Electric, Alstom, but I can also remind Renault, Peugeot, Air Liquide. I can remind that Russia launched rockets from Kourou, French Guiana, so it is also cooperation in, in technology. So I will turn to Yuri Abramov, who is the General Director of the Agency of Technological Development. So, Yuri, how do you see the activity of the French company in Russia, in the Eurasian Economic Union, in this field? What are therefore their weaknesses, and what the agency could, how the agency can help them?
Доброе утро, уважаемые дамы и господа. Большое спасибо.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Philippe, for inviting me. I have a presentation so that I can stick to the topic, but I will not read it. So if you want to read it later, you can. I represent about 50 institutes for development in Russia. There's a bit of confusion, therefore. With regard to technological development, we were set up 2 years ago with the aim of contributing to Russian technology. This is our mission. In order to achieve it, the Russian Federation has set up this institute. We deal with high-level technology, highly specialized technologies. Startups and venture projects are not our field of work. We just work on the basis of already defined technological project. We do not have the time to solve technological problems. We need an actual project to implement. International cooperation is fundamental here. We were created by the Russian Federation. We are funded by the state. Most of our services are free of charge. With the DASO system, we are negotiating at the moment. We know all the French specialization in technology and in the agricultural sector too. We're always open to collaboration. Despite being a state body, we act just like private organizations. We want to be flexible in our contacts for collaboration. And this is a way to overcome barriers and to shorten this decision-making times. Through our partnership network, all companies that have their own technology projects, proprietary technologies, can collaborate with us. Our objective is not just that of acting as a platform, but also as a resource to contribute to the Russian economy. Thank you. That has been very interesting. I've very often participated in the activity of your agency, change of language, and I can see that you work effectively.
It is also a technological company. So, Christophe, you are especially for Central Asia, in fact. So what is your footprint in Central Asia, and what, in your opinion, are the conditions of success in Central Asia?
Merci Philippe. Bonjour
in English.
Bonjour à tous et à tous. Thank you. I know it is in English. Thank you very much.
Or in Russian.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to speak this morning more in the quality of president of Business Council for France, Uzbekistan, France, Tajikistan, France, Kyrgyzstan, and France, Mongolia. And I'm going to share with you two very concrete examples. The first one is related to a worldwide leader called Air Liquide. Hello to the people from Air Liquide in the attendance. And I'm back in 2011. I'm leading the first mission of Air Liquide in Kazakhstan, in Astana, because Air Liquide wants to invest in Central Asia. And of course, I meet with the people, you can imagine, Samruk Kazina, Kazmek Invest, Kazmunayaz. And finally, we identify a very concrete project which consists in outsourcing hydrogen from the refineries of Kazmunayaz. Yesterday was here the CEO of BP, the CEO of Rosneft, and you can ask them. In general, when you start as a potential supplier to speak about outsourcing from a refinery, it's like, don't touch my refinery, you know? It's mine, don't touch it. And especially true, of course, in Kazakhstan. To make a long story short, the contract of outsourcing has been signed 3 months ago, so 7 years later. So first takeaway, if you want to make business in Central Asia, and especially in Kazakhstan, also in Uzbekistan, take your time. You have to be patient. I would say, to make a long story short, that you have to spend almost twice more time than in some other countries. Second lesson, this outsourcing has not been, I would say, a pure one, because we had to build a joint venture between the customer, Kazmunayaz, and Air Liquide. It's a 75-25 joint venture, which is going to be the owner of all the hydrogen production in the refineries of Kazakhstan, the 3 ones. So the second message is be creative. Don't think that you are going to do business as at home. It's not exactly the same thing. And the third thing I would like to share with you is Air Liquide would not have been able to do so without becoming Kazakhstan, or from Kazakhstan. And one of the main acts that we did is to hire a very high-level guy from the administration. He was in charge of investment at that time. And of course, we did that in perfect compliance with the Kazakh administration. He came to France with his family during 3 years, and now he's the head of Air Liquide in Kazakhstan. So third lesson, become a citizen of the country in which you want to have business with. My second example is with another company, a French company called IDEMIA today, ex-Ouverture Technology, in Uzbekistan. Ouverture Technology and IDEMIA today, which is IDEMIA is a merger between Ouverture and Morpho, is a worldwide leader in, let's say, data security. And why Uzbekistan? Because in Uzbekistan, the only mandatory document is the passport. And Ouverture has been selected in 2011 or 12 to bring the passport technology into Uzbekistan to the national printing company called Davlat Bilkisi, and to the center of enrollment and personalization of the passport. So big success as well, 21 million passports produced in 7 years, which is huge. 3 to 4 million passports per year is the equivalent of a country like France or UK. And again, what are the lessons? Number one is, of course, you have to bring the best of the technology. The Uzbek passport today is one of the best in the world. Number two, of course, you have to be present, and it's a team of 25 people, 24 plus 1 expatriate, who are maintaining the system today in Tashkent. And I would say that, again, you have to be a bit creative. There is a very important national printing company in Tashkent. As you know, Uzbekistan is a very strong country on cotton, not only on cotton as cotton, but also on paper from cotton. So the national printing company is a very, very high-level one. And we decided with IDEMIA to propose to this national printing company to print the passport for other countries, for Asian countries and for African countries. So thanks to that kind of cooperation, Uzbekistan has been able to re-export and to be paid in a hard currency some technologies abroad. So, two nice stories. What's the situation today in Central Asia? I must say that I'm impressed by the progresses made by Uzbekistan during the last 2 years, during the election of the new president, Mr. Mirziyoyev. A couple of examples. Of course, the convertibility of SUM, which is making the the business climate in Uzbekistan much, much easier, of course. Good signs, EBRD is back to Uzbekistan. Agence Française de Development opened an office just a few months ago. So again, the business climate for investment is much, much better, especially for French companies, but not only. President Mirziyoyev was in France 2 weeks ago. I had the chance to chair or co-chair with Mr. Ikramov, who was with us yesterday. Co-chair a business forum with approximately 150 companies from France and 120 from Uzbekistan, so big concentration. President Mirziyoyev has given a dinner for 20 CEOs of the CAC 40, again showing the interest of Uzbekistan for foreign investment. So what's the future? The future for me is quite easy, is to go from trading to investing. And to do so, if I may, I would recommend maybe to improve things on three items. The first one, always the same, anti-corruption. Corruption is cancer for business. It's cancer for business, for traders, but even more for investors. So I want to really underline all the efforts done by all those countries, especially by Uzbekistan during the last years to prevent from this cancer. The second one is about the legal framework. If you invest in a country like Uzbekistan, like Kazakhstan, like Tajikistan, very often you will do that in joint venture, or in partnership, in PPP, in a BOT, build, own, transfer, build, own, operate. So we need to have a better framework in terms of legal framework for those investments, for those joint ventures. And last but not least, I'm going to smile a little bit, but it's a reality. When you are French, when you are Italian, when you are probably German, it's quite painful to travel to Central Asia because you have to make a stop very often in Moscow or in Istanbul. I love Moscow. I love Istanbul. I'm less fan about the airports. So if we can all lobby and pass a message to our dear airline companies like Alitalia or Air France to develop more direct links between our capital from Western Europe and Central Asia, it would be a great progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. Now we'll turn to Candice Young. So Candice, you are a lawyer. You have a lot of business, the different businesses. You work for Wedgeshire Group, for Evershed Sutherland, and I think it's very interesting to have you with us to give to us a view from the view from Beijing. I would say that I think that there is already many projects between Europe and even some other time even France and China to develop in Eurasia. I can, of course, notice transport corridors. So that it's one thing. It's also before us, the CEO of SACE reminds the project of Yamal. For example, Yamal is a project of a French company, Total, with in fact Chinese also partners, which was financed by Chinese banks and Banca Intesa. So it's interesting how we all together finance, because I can tell you there is no French financing for that. If you listen sometime that there is French financing, I think it's a mistake. There is no one. Our banks are completely frozen for that. But we need to be more, so you see, and to find Chinese partners and so on. So Candice, what is your view on the business-oriented view?
So my name is Candice Young. I see everybody is super awake after the coffee break, which is awesome. I have years of experience representing Asia and especially Chinese investors in Europe, and that's including Russia. And so through the years, I have first-hand knowledge and experiences to see the commercial and business interactions, also the challenges between China and Europe. And I'm here today also representing one of the most successful investors in Europe, who is the Weichai Group. I give a very general case study, and so because it taught a lot of Chinese companies and to how to make business after acquisition in Europe and giving the differences. So Weichai established in 1946, and right now the total revenue exceeds over 40 billion euro, and total employees are over 80,000 people, and is among the most competitive automakers and equipment manufacturers in China. So in 2004, Weichai was listed very early on, considered Chinese companies in Hong Kong. And 2007, they started the wave of coming back to Chinese stock market. So they're among the first one coming back from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange to China. And the 6 key business area is the powertrain and logistics, automotive, construction, machineries, luxury yachts, and finance. And Weichai's investment in Europe really started in 2010 after the economic crisis, financial crisis. And they saw the opportunities in the West, in Europe and in America, which they were not doing very well because of the crisis. So they started in 2010 in France with a marine engine company. And going into the marine engine from the traditional diesel engine led them to find the opportunity of Ferretti in Italy, which is in luxury yacht business. Both the Baudouin, the company in France, and also Ferretti, they acquired out of bankruptcy. That's the team of Weichai, the expertise of Weichai can turn around the business from bankruptcy, bad assets, to a profitable company. And then continually, because of Ferretti, they built their more reputation in Europe. So Goldman Sachs and KKR came to Weichai, asked them to purchase the Linde, and belong to the Kiel Group in Germany. And that also in the future years led them to have 2 big acquisitions also in North America, also very strategic. And recent years, Weichai started intensive and very deep relationship with Russia business in the heavy truck and automotive industry. I don't know. Okay, can we play this? It's just 30 seconds with the sound.
Thank you.
This year is the 50th anniversary of Ferretti and Bella Italia. And so Ferretti Group is a very successful, also is a very challenging case because of first, it's a debt purchase acquisition. It's a multi-brand and multi-shipyard. The shipyard spread out in 7 cities in Italy. And then the sales is in more than 60 markets globally. And in the past, Ferretti did 10 small to medium acquisitions with very poor integration that led to the management divided values in every integration. And previously controlled by the investment fund, so operational decisions were not based on the market objectivity and then the local conditions.
May I ask you to conclude?
Yeah. I have 3 points. And one of the things they did that they performed significantly superior than the rest of a lot of Chinese company after the acquisition is effective allocation of group resources. So they have tailored the team that went into Ferretti for 3 layers system. The top management is localized. They understand that they are from a different sector, so they leave the market and the management to the local. And they have middle management penetration, so they send people into every department in order to understand the company better, to assist Weichai to fulfill all the needs. And the other is management. The most important point is they reformed the traditional yacht manufacturing system to industrial management mode. So in the past, it's a luxury yacht, it's custom made, so every brand have their own operation, and then every brand have their own values. They believe this is the service of luxury yacht, but they industrialize this process. So that means centralized purchasing and modular production and optimized distribution center. They were able to reduce the cost by 7%, which is very significant.
Candice, thank you. Now, it's good you make your conclusion?
Yes, okay, I make my conclusion. So my conclusion is also relevant, very relevant to this, the questions you ask. In the past 40 years, China, the reform and opening up the economy of the Chinese society really established and then pushed out very successful and generations of business leaders are very dare to take responsibilities, not fear of the risk, and very adaptive to changes. And from my experience also dealing with the European business, there's a lot of good points in the European companies. But European business leaders historically growing up and then improved in a very superior, historically superior, comfortable position. So the awareness to market change, the awareness to responsibilities, and awareness to innovation can be improved in the long term.
Thank you, Candice. Interesting views. Thank you. Now I will give the floor a bit to the room, but I have a question in fact for a person in the room at the first row, who is so Vladimir Potyomkin, who is Vice Governor of Kaluga region. Yeah, you can come here. And I would like to ask you, what is your view about the French company working in the region of Kaluga? Region of Kaluga is a very industrial region. What is your view? Short also, business, коротко, вот, ну, как вы видите французские компании в Калуге, в Калужской области?
Спасибо большое, Филипп. Ты уникальный сам по себе человек.
Thank you so much. You are really unique in a way, because whenever I listen to you, I feel fascinated. You speak frankly, and you say frankly things that many people dare not say. I thank you very much for the activity you developed in the Kaluga region in cooperation with local partners. Of course, talking about the small region of Kaluga, after we heard from Ms. Jiang's activities that have a turnover of dozens of billions is not easy. We hope we'll get there too. But for me, at the moment, it's quite easy to talk about our work with French companies. Ms. Nikishina already illustrated quite well the comfortable environment that the federal government is creating for all investors that want to work in Russia. Other colleagues already talked about the success they had in Uzbekistan, and we heard that there are special conditions in Uzbekistan for investors. We did the same in Kaluga with some small exceptions, if you like, apart from what was mentioned by the colleague who represents Central Asia. When we receive a potential investor to hear about his project, the approval procedure takes just 10 minutes. After that, each investor is free to start working to implement the project. This attracted many French companies, and in fact, in the past 10 or 12 years, we have set up over 100 new companies, and we're happy to cooperate with Peugeot, Citroën, and with many other very big businesses. We are really taking care of all sorts of companies, big and small. In Russia, EURASIAN is now famous. They produce flowers, and they are now considered the best flowers in Europe. A few years ago, Total opened a new business, a new manufacturing plant, and this is something the French are now proud of, and they realized that they could not be successful in Russia without this. To guarantee further development, the regional administration must create the best possible comfort for investors. As was already pointed out, we try to establish a synergy from the very outset and understand the requirements of foreign investors, be they French or Italian. In Kaluga, there are now countries from 70 different countries, and I think that they all were very, very successful. To be able to develop further our country, we are also trying to look for new working modes. Recently, we organized a new sync road. Now, in the industrial park of a village called Vorchanov, freight trains leave for China, and the journey takes just 12 days. For those who work in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, I want to point out that this new trading route was organized in collaboration with Korean Samsung, and it crosses also the Kazakh area, so you can use it to send your goods through to China. The first trains have already left for Vietnam and Japan. The first train actually reached Mumbai in India now. So trains start on the way to Finland, the Netherlands, and so on. That's a very interesting thing, I think. And by the way, tariffs have been cut down by 50% in comparison with what was normally paid for train freight transport. In Kaluga, we also opened an international airport, and we invite possible partners to use this airport. But since we are in Italy now, allow me briefly to make a couple of comments on Italy. 2 years ago, we officially opened a statue of Gagarin, Yuri Gagarin, and the leaders of this forum perhaps would like to start a tradition to give this statue the flowers. Last year, we unveiled another monument to Gagarin, Yuri Gagarin, in France. So that might be a nice bridge, if you like, connecting our country. There are many Italian businesses working in Kaluga, and I hope that this bridge between the two countries may really help you reach other countries too. So in conclusion, we are trying to offer the best conditions to our investors, and we try to take into account different cultural values and views of the people that come to work on in our country. Those who work in Kazakhstan or Kaluga should be safely convinced that this is not just an exception but a rule.
Give my deliver this possibility to Anselm Humbert. You make the synthesis of what you heard today. Anselm is the financial counselor of the French Embassy. Anselm, you can come here if you want, and you have 4 minutes. But synthesis is a French art, so you need to be synthetic.
Synthesis is very, very hard, in fact. It's
the
worst part of the round table.
It's not to be long.
Well, so to be short, because I think we are more or less short of time. From this very interesting round table, I have 2 or 3 comments. First of all, what are we speaking about? We are speaking about trade and investment. And the first thing you need is a market. So the first idea is that you need to have a big market. So that the sense of the Eurasian Union, for instance, big as possible, it's what you want for a market. So, for instance, if you're in Kyrgyzstan and if you want to attract FDI, it's not so easy. If you can belong to a broader union, it can be easier. So I think that's the first thing. We need to integrate markets. It's what we did in Europe. It's what is going on with step by step in the Eurasian Union. And I think it's a very, very impressive and very optimistic view, maybe. But I think we have to count on this. The second thing, I think, is about the business climate. Of course, you need a market, but you need a market with rules. And the rule of law is very, I would say, is not necessary. It's just the key point. So rules locally, rules at a level of union, for instance. So, for instance, it would be interesting at this moment to talk with the Eurasian Commission about parallel imports and some ideas to let a possibility of parallel imports. That's a key point for investors, for instance. So I would like to share these comments. But of course, not just rule of law. You have to be welcome. And I can witness that, for instance, in Russia, Kaluga region is really a very friendly, business-friendly region. Thanks to the governor, thanks to his team, really Kaluga is a favorite destination for investment. Not just for French companies, but for Italian, German companies. That's really a very important thing because we have a person in charge who is hearing you and who is answering you. And finally, I was hearing the several speakers, and it was very interesting with intervention from Mrs. Young. I think there are several things. I think, in general, we say, well, be global, act local. And I don't know if it's Mr. Sidos or Mr. Fontaine who said that, but the human resources are very important. They are a key point. But the second thing, I think we have to learn a lot with the cross-border experiences. So we have to act local with lessons learned everywhere in the world, with our Chinese partners, with our Italian colleagues, because we have a lot of joint venture with Italians, for instance. And okay, I see you. I'll stop now. But really, it was very interesting, and I think it just shows the interest of cross borders cooperation. Thanks.
Thank you, Anselme. Thank you. Thank you for this conclusion. And I would like only now to thank all the speakers. A special thanks also to Mrs. Nikishina for this very bright speech. And thank you for everybody. And thank you to Professor Fallico, of course, that because without him, he made something happen. Without him, it will not happen. Thank you.